This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon here on Mitch Marathon Month. And of course, it will wear better if you are listening to it in a Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon t-shirt available at loudtracks.com/Mitch. And my gratuitous plug is now done. But can you hear my voice, by the way? I have done 6 shows in 6 nights in 4 cities and 2 provinces, driving myself, by the way. And my voice is fantastic. But today I've got a double episode. We don't do a lot of double episodes, but I have got George Thorogood, who was in Kemptville, Ontario last night, July 20th. We are now July 21st. And his guitar tech is Rev Jones. Now, Rev Jones played with Steelheart. He played with the Scorpions' James Kottak in a band called Kottak that also had Tommy Lee's sister, Athena. Rev has a new album out called Bakwash. But George, on the other hand, has a whole bunch of stuff that he was plugging. The new Epiphone George Thorogood White Fang guitar, and the tour, the Good to Be Bad tour, 45 years of rock. Now, both interviews were recorded backstage. More specifically, I think they were recorded like in the laundry room. Anyway, so I'm going to play those. So there's 2 of them today. In fact, you know what? Instead of giving you a long talk up about everything, let me get over to George real quick, and then we'll come back. We'll say a couple more words, and we'll get over to Rev Jones talking about his album Bakwash. And, of course, you can head over to revjones.com to check that out. But I will say I had a chance to talk to his tour manager, Adam, George's manager, and Adam is just terrific. Just one of the nicest guys you will absolutely ever meet. He's going to help me set up interviews with 38 Special, The Outlaws, and some other bands, and just a terrific. So just thank you to Adam. Always a pleasure to talk to and play, or not play, but talk to and deal with. Is that the word? That sounds kind of harsh, but deal with Adam. But anyway, you know what I mean. So without further ado, we are going to. Oh, you know what? Just before we started rolling the tape, George and I, for some reason, started talking about Ted Nugent, and George was talking about how Ted is a great guitar player, and I said, I just interviewed Ted, and he said it's a shame that he's not considered in the top 100 guitarists in America. And George was like, that's not even doing him justice. He should be like in the top 20, but because the guy can play. Anyway, without further ado, here is from the laundry room in Kemptville, Ontario. No, kidding. Well, actually, I'm not kidding. It is the one, the only, George Thorogood. We are in Kemptville, Ontario with the one and only legendary. Uh-oh. The legendary. Now you have a lot to live up to in this interview, by the way. George Thorogood. George, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mitch.
Obviously, it's been a long summer for you, being a New York Mets fan. It's a little bit complicated.
It's always a long summer every year with the Mets.
Isn't it?
Even when they're winning.
Yes. But you have this new White Fang guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about this. So when they come to you, Epiphone, and say you want to make this guitar, do they just sort of send you over a prototype and say, do you like it and want to put your name to it? Or do you get in there and say, I want this specification, I want this added into it? How does that work?
Well, in my case, I can only relate to how it worked with me.
Okay.
I can't speak for other guitarists. In my case, I played a Gibson ES-125 my whole life.
Right.
And they're very fragile guitars. It was a limited amount of time they made them, from 1957 to 1970, I believe. And because they're an arch top, because I started on acoustic guitar and I finger pick and thumb pick,
right,
they're an ideal setup for me.
Right.
But they're a very inexpensive guitar. They had the P90s, which people love, but they feed back a lot. You can't play on television with them because of the lights. They feed back all the time.
Wow.
But they were perfect for me, and it gave me a unique sound. Plus, I could really play. And they're small guitars. I have small hands, a small neck. But I wore them out. and then they got so rare, I just beat them to death.
Right.
And we were spending more money repairing these guitars. And at the same time, I remember one time I ran out of guitars. And I said, I guess the career's over. And
I'm just going to go home.
And our bass player all of a sudden, mysteriously in a month, found 2.
Wow.
Mysteriously. Somewhere he came up with them to keep me going. All right.
Where did he bury the bodies?
Well, he was just he was just saying, well, if that's the case, we'll find him a guitar. Well, this is the case. There's none of them left to be found.
Right.
And even if we did find them, they're not ideal instruments for what I do. Epiphone had been coming to me for a while, and our manager Adam Connie came and said, Epiphone wants to, help you out here. And I was like, the 125. They said, what we can do is Epiphone will design an Epiphone exactly like your 125. And I was thinking, I've tried that. I've tried people making custom pants and custom shirts. It just doesn't work.
Right.
I'm a stock guy.
Right.
I like it right off the shelf stock. Can't go wrong. He said, but there are none left, George. And your jokes aren't that good. So you have to play. I'm saying, all right. So they brought this Epiphone to me. Well, it was really difficult at first. So our guitar tech and our guitar sound man started working on them. Working out the kinks in them and playing, certain spots that I hit all the time weren't working. It's just, that's the kind of thing it is,
Right.
It had to be tailor-made for my way I play. Now, these two guys have heard me play a lot, so they know what they were doing. So each night I tried a little bit. And I tried them a few times on stage, and I was like,
Well, they had to sneak him on stage without even telling you, right?
Well, one night I did a festival, and I did both those guitars, and I didn't even know it. Because I was so involved in my performing, they just came out and handed me the guitar. I didn't look at it, it didn't say Gibson on it, it said Epiphone. I just played. So later I was saying, I want to play the 120. I said, you already did a festival with both those guitars. I said, I did. I said, he did it in Portland. You used both guitars. I said, wow, that's interesting. So Jeff Pitt, our sound guy, said, look, you mentioned baseball.
Right.
Because when you play those 125s, if you hit the ball as hard as you can, it hits the warning track and bounces into the stands for a double.
Right.
You play these Epiphones, it's like the ball rockets into the upper deck.
Right.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
He said, you're not reaching people like you can, like I know you can. Okay. So on the one, I said, listen, I just want to use the 125s one more time. Just one more time at a show. Because I'd been using the Epiphones, getting used to them for 2 or 3 nights. I just let me use my old guitars one last time. Well, lo and behold, Mitch, we did the show. But let me tell you, it was a good show, audience reception, but it wasn't quite the same. He was right. It was right. It was like, the audience was like, yeah. But with the other guitar, it was like, ah! See, so I said, you're right. It's different. I can tell the difference of the audience from last night till tonight. And he said, yeah, you're hitting it into the warning track. You don't want that. You want it to leave the stadium.
Yeah.
And I said, you see, I'm a lunatic. I live with that. But our sound man, he's a maniac.
Right.
He's
certifiable.
A certifiable maniac. He's a guy that's kill, kill, kill. That's what he goes for. He's a juggler vein type of guy.
Right.
And he was saying, well, if you have that kind of act and everything, you should have the right instrument.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I tried them. So Epiphone steps up. And not only did they give me one, or give me 2, they gave us 10.
Wow.
10 guitars. Count them.
10.
Not 2 or 3.
10. They're a good company.
To say the least.
They take care of their people.
Well, it'll be good. I'll be playing for a while.
Right.
And,
Now, did you modify them in any way? Did you come back to them and say, hey, I don't like the way this...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. We did that. They customized it.
So what performance sort of tweaks did you make?
I didn't. Pitt did. And our sound guy did.
But obviously you must give suggestions.
Well, there were certain spots I say, this spot is real dull. It's not responding in this one area. Or I'd say, this is the area where I play the most. Or this is what...
And you need a little more...
this area. So they worked on it without just saying, well, okay, let's just get another guitar. No. They worked on it in certain spots. Reverend, our guitar guy, who's the guy you should interview.
I did interview Rev.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He's a genius, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he would find these spots to make it work. Well, he and I went to see, and Adam, we went to see Jeff Beck. And Jeff Beck, Fender's a big company. They don't need endorsements, but they got endorsements from Jeff Beck. Have you seen Jeff's guitar? Like that one with the headstock upside down?
Yeah.
Forget it. And Reverend actually touched it once. It was on display somewhere, and he actually walked over and touched it.
That's the great thing about music, how geeky we get. I touched the guitar, but that's the beauty of music, right?
Yeah, it really is, Mitch, because I remember when we did a tour with B.B. King.
Yeah.
And it was like a ritual. B.B. King had a guy on his payroll. His one job, I didn't even know he was a guitar thing. His one job was to take B.B.'s guitar into B.B.'s room.
That was it?
And yes. Like his valet of his guitar. And he had it on a stand. And he was walking by the hall, and he had his guitar. Very serious man.
He was respecting his instrument.
Lucille.
Yeah.
Huh? So I asked the guy, I said, "Can I touch BB's guitar?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Could you ask Mr. King if I could touch his guitar?" "No." I said, "Come on, man. I just want to touch it." So I go like this. All right, that's
tap.
But I touched this guitar. See, we all are like that.
Yes.
That's
why we're here.
That's exactly. I was lucky enough to do this thing they do with Bob Dylan in Madison Square Garden, and it was his 30th year in show business. And Columbia threw this big party in Madison Square Garden where he went over the guest list. And, of course, Tom Petty was there, George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Chris Christopherson did the DMC work, Booker T and the MGs were the backup band. Can't do any better than this. Can't do any better than that. Okay.
The rock royalty.
And somehow I got invited.
Well, what do you mean somehow?
Listen.
Come on.
Do you know how many people were standing in line that wanted to be part of this? And Dylan said no.
Yes, but at the end of the day, you don't do this for 45 years because you're some schmuck. I mean, you're part of rock royalty.
I was in wait a minute. This was a long time ago. I was in the same dressing room with Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson. My dressing room was with those three guys.
Right. And you think, well, what's Chris Christopherson doing there? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No.
G.E. Smith.
No, G. Smith.
G. Smith took me to the room, and he said, "Here's your dressing room." And it said, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, George Thorogood. And I said, well, that must be the wrong room.
Okay, but jokes aside, you don't think you belong? You do belong.
Let me finish.
Okay.
I said, "You put me in with these guys." And this is what G. Smith says to me. And he goes, "Yours, the Outlaws." Can't go no further.
That's right.
At the end of the night, they had everybody on stage, and the next to the last song they were going to do was My Back Pages. Everybody took a verse. McGuinn took a verse. Mm-hmm. Tom Petty took a verse. And Dylan took a verse. Now, before it went on, I was lucky enough that the stage crew were some people who used to work with us, who were working that show. And I went to them and I pleaded with them. I said, "Listen, when all those cats are on stage, Dylan, Clapton took a verse playing this song. I said, can I just sit on the stage in the back? No one will see me. And can I take my guitar and just put my guitar on the stage with me?" Sure. They found a spot for me. There's these guys up there. Crimson flames flying through my ears. You know that thing they do, Okay. Here I am off to the side. I got my guitar, and I'm on the stage. And some of the people in Madison Square Garden see me, what's going on, see me sitting there, watching these guys. I'm just sitting here with my guitar. Right. Almost all of them look at me and they go, like, "We know why you are doing this." I didn't have to play. I just wanted to be on the fucking stage. See what I'm saying? And you say these things, like you mentioned baseball.
Yeah.
They had a Hall of Fame dinner, and all these guys were in the Hall of Fame, right? And it was after the Hall of Fame induction, they had a big dinner. After the dinner, Ted Williams, Stan Musial, and Joe DiMaggio, and Mickey Mantle go to Ted's room. This is late at night. All four of them. And Ted does most of the talking. And he's talking about hitting. DiMaggio's not much of a talker. He's a listener. Ted's talking about this stance and this stance. And he's tying everybody's getting along. in the middle of it, he's talking about a certain pitcher he had a tough time. Well, I think it was Bob Feller or somebody, some badass.
Right.
Ted Williams turns to Mickey Mantle, and he says, "Yeah, I had this. I had to hit him like this." He goes, "What do you think, Mickey? How did you handle him?" And Mantle sits there, and Stan Musial and Joe DiMaggio turn and look at Mickey like, "Yeah, we'd really like to know, Mickey. You're one of the greatest." This is after Mantle's in the Hall of Fame. Got up and ran out of the room.
Really?
He couldn't take it. And they asked him why did he say, "I'm a fucking bat boy compared to those guys." You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, everybody's got their thing, you know what I mean? And I always think how much you play or how good you might get or successful. If I ever lose that, then I'm done.
Is that what keeps you in it after 45 years? Is the passion? Because I know I do my interviews and stuff like that, and it's the passion for the music. Have you ever lost the passion? Was there ever a time where you went, I'm just not inspired to pick up the guitar?
Mm-hmm.
Or has it always been there, that passion?
When did Pete Rose lose his passion for baseball? Never.
Well, yeah.
Never. But when he started out, he could barely hit the ball out of the infield. He worked and worked and worked and kept working and working and working till he got on a team. Any team.
Yep.
Then he said, I got on a team. Then he kept working and working and working. So he stayed on the team. He worked more and more and more. And finally he became an all-star. Then he worked more and more and more and started breaking every record in the book. And he still didn't stop. You see what I'm saying? There's a passion there, but there's also a part of you that says, I want to stroll with the immortals. Who doesn't?
Right.
So when I said, do you know that if you ever asked me, you may never do, but I'll probably bring it up, and I could list you certain people that came to see our band. Primarily came to see me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I told you who these people were, you wouldn't fucking believe it.
Well, who are they?
These are people on their night off or whatever they're doing with their life came to see us play.
Yeah.
Let's start at the top and stay there. Bob Dylan.
Wow.
When we keep going,
We're starting pretty top. That's top right there.
Mick Jagger.
Yeah. Wow. Well, of course, you toured or played a show with.
Do you know how busy these people are? How hard it is for these people to arrange something for them to do,
right.
Even if it's just going to buy a pack of gum. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Life is complicated for those people. It's not like they just say, "I'll buy a ticket and go see this guy."
Right.
Also on the list is John Fogerty.
Oh,
that's hot.
That is very hot.
You know what I like to say? I said, I tease John whenever he gets a little grumpy. I said, "John, the Beatles came to see you play." All four of them. The Beatles came to see you play. And then what I tell people, I said, "But Fogerty came to see me play." Can you dig it?
That is great. That is great.
That's hot.
And you know what? In that same vein, I just interviewed Doug Clifford from that band. So that's it. No, but that's impressive. So, do you get a sort of a kick out of that when somebody of that stature comes? Does that motivate you more when you look out in the audience and you see Mick Jagger? You go, "Fuck yeah! Look at that." I
was in the elevator. I'm in England, and we're just coming off stage. And I looked off the side of the stage, and there was this cat watching us play. And he gets in the elevator, and this woman who was a guitarist said, "Hey, look, this cat came to see you play, man." And I look over and go, "It's Jeff Beck."
Wow.
I was like, "You got to be kidding me. This isn't really happening to me." You see, I was just a kid, man. All these people were monsters to me. You know what I'm saying? Monster people. And I like Mantle. I said, Mantle couldn't handle it. So he runs away. That's me. That's me in a nutshell. I got the chance to meet Eric Clapton. And I was sitting at a table, my wife and I, and he was looking at me, this big smile on his face. And my wife said, "Look, that's Eric. He wants to meet you. Look, you have to go over there and speak to him." I said,
"Yeah, you do."
Said, yeah. The rookie goes to the God. The God doesn't come to the rookie.
Right.
So I went over and talked to him. He said, "George, mate," big hug. We started talking. He chilled my shit forever.
Wow.
forever he chilled my shit. And this is how he did it, Mitch. You ready for this? I'm sitting there talking with him, and I was speechless, if you can believe that. Me, speechless. And I went,
Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And I'm sitting there going, I really don't know what to say. I said, after all, you're Eric Clapton. Here's what he says to me. He gets real serious. He goes, yes, that's true. But you're George Thorogood. You must never forget that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
That was like Ted Williams said, what do you think, Mickey?
Yeah.
But still, I ran away anyway.
Yeah, but so let me ask you about this, because you 45 years of touring.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Alan Parsons the other day, and he says to me, touring has become the bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
Forget selling records,
Mm-hmm.
I have to tour. And he said, listen, I'm 70-some years old, and it's getting harder, but I have to tour.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Has the music business changed so much where we can't sell records and we can't sell anything, and you have to be on the road?
There's always change.
Right.
There's always change. This is one of the best times ever to be on the road. It was a nightmare.
Fantastic.
It was a nightmare 40, 50 years ago. Why do you think the Beatles quit? They couldn't hear themselves. They changed technology. They had to create instruments and PA systems to accommodate the disasters that happened at shows with people like the Stones or the Who or things like that, because this stuff wasn't invented yet.
Right.
There wasn't even tour buses. Hotels wouldn't take you. See?
No, they wouldn't.
So
because of the reputation.
Well, just whatever reasons, it's become a monster institution, a monster business. There's no luxury that's too much to accommodate, to keep it going. Anything that is financially successful is going to last.
Right.
So when other people say it may get harder on you because you might be an older person, but there are ways around it that they have things with you, a custom-made bus, the best hotel suite to accompany a B.B. King, a man who's now in his 80s, is a diabetic or whatever. They take care of him.
Right.
So in that sense, it's better. The competition is heavier because there's just 90 bands out every summer. No,
Yes.
200 bands, 2,000 bands.
Well, listen, tonight you are my 6th show in 6 nights.
There you go. See?
I've done 6 out of 6.
Right. And there's usually 3 or 4 people playing that night.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I had options tonight, but I came to you, of
Well,
course.
thank you. Well, see, but you got to earn it, killer.
Yes.
So that's when I say you go out there, you better deliver, because the average ticket now is what, $75, $80?
Mm-hmm.
Fill up the gas tank costs $90.
Mm-hmm.
Parking $40.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about maybe a couple of beers. And you're buying 4 tickets, one for your kid, one for your wife.
Oh, shows have become $1,000 by the time you're done.
Exactly. No, $1,000 before you get on stage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm
Plus
talking
the
about
merchandising.
you bring the wife and a couple of kids and the T-shirts and you're at
talking
$1,000.
bucks here, man.
You're talking rent.
Exactly. And these people, and you also think with that kind of money, and it's mostly a working class people that come to these things.
Yes.
Working class people. The average person comes to the show now is about 43, 44, not 14.
Right.
So they have a job, and they have to drive there, and they have to do all that. They have to go through a lot. So everything they go through and the money they spend, it's probably the only show they can afford all year.
Right.
One show they pick. And if they pick you, you better fucking come through.
Yes. Yes.
I have no doubt. I have no choice. I have no choice. I got to meet Joe DiMaggio.
Oh.
Yeah, and he didn't give me advice. He gave me a command. We talked for a while, and the thing he told me, he said, George, you only owe your fans one thing. And I said, what's that? Your best.
Yes. I agree.
To him, there was no doubt in his mind. Now my best might not live up to Jimi Hendrix or Paul McCartney, but it's still my best.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's the best I can do.
Yes.
Man.
Oh, I agree.
Mantle hit 3 home runs. Pete Rose hit 2 stand-up doubles. But that's the best Pete can do.
Right. And that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, my motto is always be the best Mitch that Mitch can be. I mean, that's sort of how I operate.
Me too. I don't step outside of that. I said, I'm never going to be Jeff Beck. I'm never going to be these people. I'm never going to be Peter Townsend, all these people I saw when I was a kid. So I'm going to be the best George can be,
But I would put you in the same argument as or in the same breath as those, because your style is unique, the way you play is unique. You look at the riffs from Bad to the Bone to I Drink Alone, exceptionally recognizable. You're in that
Jimi Hendrix wanted to be Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody is like that.
I know.
You see what I mean? Jeff Beck wants to be Les Paul.
Of course.
Everybody has that thing, no matter how brilliant or great they are. You know what I mean? Bob Dylan wants to be Hank Williams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So everybody you meet, they're all on that page. Eric Clapton wants to be B.B. King.
Of course.
You see? There's only one person, Little Richard, who wants to be Little Richard.
Right.
Woo!
And he loves that. But
He loves it. That's right.
He loves it. But you're in that conversation, obviously. And since we're talking about the best, I mean, fan-wise, when you see bands come out there that are drunk or that are stoned, that's such a downer. I mean, you really want the guy. I mean, you guys come out and you are good to go.
Mitch, you said somebody comes out there and they're drunk or they're this, that, and the other. That doesn't happen anymore. Yes.
A little bit. Not as much.
Very little. Very
But it's the
little.
younger bands.
Very little, and they don't last because promoters don't want them back.
That's right.
They don't want you there. If it'll happen once. You got one chance at screwing up with Bill Graham. One chance. And when you screwed up, you never got a second chance. That was it. Okay? And that's the key there. So, yeah, we used to see that. And I know I heard of bands that they were just going at 8 o'clock and they didn't show up till midnight. And I was like, wait a minute. The President of the United States, Obama, wants to be a rock star. Everybody wants to be a rock star. And you come to the show late? What the fuck? You know what I mean? The game would start, the baseball game would start at 7:30. And Pete Rose would be there at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Okay? Not
at night. He's getting ready.
Exactly. Couldn't wait, beating down the door to get to the ballpark. You see? I said, that's why you don't see that anymore, Mitch. You're not going to see people going up there drunk or this, that, and the other.
Well, I still see it with the younger bands, the bands that are still in their 20s. They're figuring stuff out.
They'll figure this out. That won't last. People pay too much money, and people go through too much. The promoter works too hard to set up all these things. And I did a show. First time I did a show in a first couple times I did in a gambling casino, and it was in Milwaukee. And I went into the office of the people who worked there, and I looked on the wall, and it was all these pictures. There was a picture of B.B. King who worked there, Ray Charles, Willie Nelson, Loretta Lynn, and they had my picture up there. So I asked the guy, I said, wow, look at this. This is great. He put my picture up there. And he said, George, what do all these pictures up there have in common? All those artists that are up on the wall. And I said, well, they're all musicians. And this is what they said. Well, I said, no, they're all legends. So I went, well, thank you very much. And the cat said, listen, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Remember this. We're in the gambling business, but we don't gamble. When was the last time you walked into a restaurant or a bar and they didn't have Budweiser there? You don't gamble. First thing you do, they go, make sure Thorogood plays here. Are we stocked up in Budweiser? You see, so they've hipped me to what the business is really about. So your people coming on drunk and doing all that, it's too risky. It's just too risky. And people don't want to pay money. Do you want to pay money for that?
No, I don't.
Or you want to pay money?
It's disappointing.
Or you want to pay money to see Jeff Beck blow your mind?
There is nothing. Listen, like I said, I saw 6 shows in 6 nights, and there was one show in there where the band did pretty much covers all night and played all their songs at a lower key. So it was so disappointing. You just want to see the band play the songs the way you know them, the way you've loved them, and you don't want to go see a band do an entire night of covers and not give you some of those originals. That anyway. But yeah, you want that full experience.
I was doing a show in Chicago at a festival, and it was blazing hot, real brutal. And we were going to go on later, and I was sitting in the dressing room, and it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, 200 degrees in the shade. And my trailer was right behind the stage, and the band Foghat was playing. I'd never seen Foghat. So I said, well, I'll have to walk out and take a look at him. I went out and took a look at him, Mitch, and I walked up the steps, and I watched him playing. Blazing heat, like you wouldn't believe. It was a temperature that was just, you're going to end up in a hospital.
Right.
And there they are, rock. Their lead singer's got his shirt off, and he's running around to the stage. They're fucking just getting the band is just going and going and going. I said, yeah. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what their hit is, but they got the right attitude. And then they just didn't let up. They were like older guys getting up there and thinking, this could be it.
Yeah.
This could be it. And I was like, so we were so impressed, we hired them. We went out to get these guys up there. So say what you want about them. When they get up there, they don't fool around. You know, they're thrilled, you know, to be out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this. You put out a solo album a couple of years back. Where are you on new music? Is that something that's still important to you, to be creative and have new music and make new songs? Or are you comfortable saying, you know what? Been there, done that. Fans want to hear I Drink Alone anyway. Mm-hmm. Let me go give them the best show of the best songs that they know. Mm-hmm. Everybody goes home happy.
I did a show one night a few years back, and I'd come back to a market that I had been at not too long ago, and I really didn't have any new material to speak of. And I went on the mic, and about the second or third song, I said, listen, I have an announcement, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to play any new songs. And the crowd went, yeah! I was like, all right. You're talking to the right guy right here. Well, see, Mitch, that's what I worked at my whole life. I wanted to get a catalog.
Right.
And get to a certain point where I said, this is my... I don't want to say ride on the coattails of the catalog. I want to rely on it. That's the spot I want to get in.
Yes.
And, you know, I talked to John, like John Fogerty, people like that, and he goes, well, I wanted. I said, John, you got one of the greatest you got some of the greatest songs in the world. People want to hear them. And I'm like, you know, you should be proud of this stuff, you know? I mean, last time I saw McCartney and I saw the Stones, they were so happy, so proud of what they did. And they should be. They were just loving it. They played Jumpin' Jack Flash for the 5,000th time, and they were playing it like they just discovered it yesterday. Yep. And that's the way it is. They were just thrilled to get to that spot. And I said, I mean, I might be at that spot now. So I was in the studio in January, a few years back. And a promoter kept calling our agent and wanted us to do a festival in Wisconsin. It was July or August, 6 months in advance. And the guy says, listen, I've got to have George play at this festival. And the booking agent said, well, you know, I can't reach him right now, blah, blah. He said, well, let me talk to his manager. But you don't usually do things like that. He said, all right. So he went to our manager and said, listen, you got to have George. I got to have him. You know, God wouldn't take no for his answer. So finally our manager said, listen, George isn't taking any gigs right now. He doesn't want to be bothered. He's in the studio, you know, making a new record. And you know what the promoter said? Why? And I said, he's got a point. He's calling me for what I've already done.
Right.
You don't have to do anything else.
Right.
Okay. So I walked out of the studio and said, let's go.
Right.
No problem. No problem here. You know? So that's what you get to the point of. You know, you get to a point where you say, hey, man, this is it. I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I got... And
there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
I mean, when you've written songs like Bad to the Bone, what else do you want to say? I mean, they're iconic songs.
What you get when we would go in a studio or years ago and we put songs together, we always thought of the fans, not ourselves. Mm-hmm. What would the fans go for? And then after we got fans, we said, what would our fans go for? So we can keep the same customers, like someone with a restaurant that says, we'll put this on the menu, but you're going to love it. If you like this, you're going to love this. So we're saying, so we always focused on the crowd and the audience first. And then say, well, do you like it? Well, if they like it, I like it. If they don't like it, it's out.
Right.
You know, that's why this band does it. Not all bands are the same. So when you get there, I had a guy in Florida who was a promoter, and we were working with ZZ Top. And I was sitting in a trailer or something. Great promoter, John Stoll. He's not with us anymore. And he came in to this dressing room of mine, and I said... This is a page right out of Bill Graham's book. You're going to love this. I said, gee, you know, I'm working with ZZ Top. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to wear. And he looks around and he goes, I want you to wear those shoes, those black pants, that snakeskin scarf. I want you to play Bay of the Bone. I drink alone, bourbon, scotch, and beer, and Hootie Love. I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got it.
That I like. That is where Thorogood likes to be.
Yeah.
When they walk in and say, you play this, you play this. Why did you hire me? Okay? You didn't hire me to to play,
some concept album that you're working on with violins or anything.
No.
Now, I know you have to go on stage and we have to sort of wrap this up, but how do you sort of look back at those 45 years? Is it an immense sense of pride? Is it an immense of, holy Christ, what did we do here? Like, how do you sort of take stock of the career? I mean, listen, last year at Montreal at the Place des Arts, they gave you the Achievement Award. The BB King Achievement Award. And I know that touched your heart. That was a deep...
Yeah, that was heavy.
That was heavy. And it was a great moment. I was there. It was how do you look back on this? Did you look back with a great sense of pride? I was just lucky.
Occasionally, I do. I'm usually so busy I don't have time to take stock with my life in general.
Right.
My life at home, my life on the road. I'm too busy to look in the mirror and say, gee, I never knew I was good looking. I just don't have the time for it.
Right.
But every now and again, something sneaks up on me.
But you got to hear Bad to the Bone in a movie and go, fuck yeah.
Depends on the movie.
Well, that's a good point.
I'm still waiting for Scorsese to call.
Wrap it up?
Yep.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
Now back to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with George Thorogood. And yes, a tour manager came and knocked on the door and said, we got to go. But it is because George literally had to step on stage. So thank you to George and all his team. And now let us get over to his guitar tech, Rev Jones, who you heard him mentioned in the interview. He has a new album out called Bakwash. You can check it out at RevJones.com. That is RevJones.com. And if you are a 80s metal fan, or 90s, I guess, he was in Steelheart and Kottak with James Kottak and Athena Lee. And so here, without further ado, also recorded at the in the Laundry Room in Kemptville, Ontario, it is the one, the only, Rev Jones. We are backstage here in Kemptville, Ontario, talking to Rev Jones, who, of course, is teching for George Thorogood, but he has his new album out called Bakwash. And, folks, you might know him from Steelheart and I believe Kottak as well.
Michael Schenker Group.
Michael Schenker Group, that's right. We love, by the way, we love James Kottak. And I've got a great Kottak story to tell you when we're done here. But talk to me about this new album. It just came out this year, 2019. And by the way, I'm thanked in the credits, so thank you for that. I can say that. But talk to me about this album.
Well, it's actually kind of a thing that's for probably the last 10 years I've been saying I'm going to do a solo album. And I just never really did it. Every time I would kind of get going, hey, I'm going to do this, I'd get a call, hey, I got a tour, Leslie West, or filling back in with Michael Schenker after I'd left, and then Steelheart. So it kept going, and so a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, I had a little baby boy, so that kind of kept me home a little bit more, right. And I decided, well, I'm gonna, there's actually a little before that, whenever my wife was pregnant, and I'd already started recording some songs, just demoing, and I was going to give them away on my site, and because when I'm home, I do the Rev Jones.
Well, by the way, plug the site so if people want to go check it out. Where is the site?
Well, you can go to RevJones.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were going to give them out on your site.
Yeah, so I was going to give them out, and I actually was recording them because I had songs, a few songs over the years that never made it on any of the albums that I did with other people. They didn't really fit, or I'd left before the project was done or something. So I just started demoing them, so the guys at home that I played with doing the Rev Jones band, they could learn them. So I started kind of putting them in the swing, and I'd recorded on maybe like 3 or 4 of them, and I'd contacted Jim Dofka, because we'd been friends forever, just to put down the leads. I played all the guitar on it, and I just wanted,
right.
proper.
Well, you did most of the instruments, if not all of them, right?
Well, originally, on the original demos, I played everything. I'd play the drums and went back and, just triggered them and everything, and played all the bass and guitar. I just wanted proper solos. So I'd send them to Jim, and he had immediately, sent solos back, but he And I told him what I was wanting to do, and he talked me out of giving it away. He said, I think there's, something cool here. You should put it out, just do a full album. And so he kind of talked me in, talked me out of, doing it. So I went ahead and, wrote up, the rest of the songs, and just kind of, he wanted to mix it. We did it kind of as a trade deal. I'd done some stuff for him, and, so, and I played all the guitar except for the leads, on it. And, which he was originally going to go back and redo the guitar, but there was no reason to. It sounded
great.
Yeah, it sounded great. So so I finished it, and it's the first album that I'm singing on. That actually singing the whole thing.
So let me set this for fans, because they might know you from Kottak, they might know you from Steelheart. But you are touring with George Thorogood, so it's different styles. So musically, what kind of style are we talking? I mean, I've heard it, I know what we're talking about, but a friend that's listening to this for the first time. I
don't even know how to really describe it. Because it's my kind of style that, I mean, when I grew up, I listened to bands like, the oddball bands, like Queen, and, that there's no style, One song's super heavy, the next song is, I go up to work on Monday, it's like a...
Or ride my bicycle.
And it's funny because those are the songs that I like the most, those oddball ones that, it's like the Beatles, it's the same kind of concept, and it's great because you didn't put them in a category. You could go... But
mostly, are we getting heavy songs?
But to me, I look at it as the style of like Deep Purple.
Right.
It's in that, it's like a heavy rock. I really don't consider it metal. Maybe there's some of those parts in there, but I always think of it as a heavy rock, because it's, to me, if I was a metalhead, I would, I think of Slayer and, that kind of stuff. And, and I love those bands, I grew up listening to those bands. That's why I always consider that metal. And, then you have the AC/DC and that, have the hard rock. And it's kind of the same deal to me. I think it's a little more modern in the sense of the sound, so people might get a different grasp on it. But, it's just, to me, it's just good, fun. All the lyrics are, have an underlying humor, I'm not to be taken serious.
Right.
And, this is who I voted for. This is what I, that to me that runs music.
Right now that you've gotten this solo album out, is it one and done, or is it sort of more motivating to get going to the second and third album?
I'm going to do another one. I probably had about 20 songs at the end of this that were almost done, or I just picked the 10 I wanted to go with. And I kind of want to do, because I had a couple of cover songs that I was going to put on it.
Right.
Because of the distribution deal I did, I couldn't add covers to it.
Right.
Because
it's expensive.
Yes, and just because they weren't allowed to accept, even if I had the licensing for it, they couldn't put it out the way that it was the deal was that I did.
Right.
So so I had a couple of songs that I'm going to probably release anyway as singles, just downloads or whatever. But I kind of want to do a cover album just because there's a big handful of songs that I do really cool versions of live every time I play. You
can cover Def Leppard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can borrow the tracks, yeah.
And getting away from the music for a second, teching for George.
Yeah.
Talking about some of those responsibilities, and we talk a lot about the roadie and the tech and the this, and we see that on Instagram, and I met the road. A lot of people don't know what you actually do and what people actually... Yeah. So what are you in charge? And because you do show up on stage sort of like with a mask and play along for one song because they need a little boost and they don't want to run tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime that George isn't playing, I'm usually playing guitar off stage because a couple of songs he wants to come out and he wants to be Mick Jagger for a minute, and have fun. There's no reason for him to play guitar every song if but he wants to hear it, so and sometimes it's like he'll look over and you should just play guitar in this. That's typical George. But so I set all his guitars up, his new guitar, I helped work in the process of getting what he wanted translated, right. Like he would come over when we were getting it going and I don't like this. There's something wrong here, and I would figure out what that was, and translate it to them. So, the people actually in the shop that are doing the woodwork and everything can fix this, whatever the issue is. And so I'm in charge of all that. I'm setting up, and I look at it like if you're going to have a side job, which most people that play music, regardless how many albums you sold, you're going to have some kind of side job.
And sometimes when you report on rock, you still need a side job. So.
Exactly. I mean, and that might, sometimes that might be flipping burgers. Sometimes it might be running, being a producer and all that.
Because we did talk to George about his White Fang. You've had a chance now to plug it in and play it and sound check it. How does that baby sound to you?
Oh, they're great. When they first came out with them, or when they first came out with the prototype. I guess, I had to sneak it into George. Literally, it's hard to bring somebody that's been playing that's stuck on something. Like if he's got a Chevy Nova. Now you got this Maserati. And you're like, try it.
Right,
you got to sneak it in. And the advantage was they both look the same. They're pretty close. So we were sneaking it in, and not. He wouldn't notice right off. He would notice something was different. He didn't notice what because I would do it on stage.
Right.
And he didn't like it. If you asked him about it, he would tell you he didn't like it. Because whenever I come in and told him that's what we did, he was a little mad. But at the same,
it sounds great.
But
it looks great.
And that was the way to get past it. So and then we came up with we worked on all year what needed to change. So then they came out with the actual first 20 the first 10 they made, and I had them first. They sent them to my house so I could set them all up. And everything. So I had these 10 guitars at my house that he hasn't even played. He hadn't even seen them.
Let me ask you, are you old school or new school? Do you tune it all by ear because you're a guitar?
You have to on...
the G string will always get you.
Well, on the White Fangs, because he plays with the slide, it's an open tuning. You can't tune to it. You tune the G string to the tuner, and then you have to tune everything like a piano tuner. You have to tune it to that string by ear.
You got to do it by ear.
Because if you tune it by
real
note,
techs do it by ear.
It'll never ever be in tune if you did it by the notes. It's just like a piano. If you tuned it to a tuner, it wouldn't be in tune.
That's right.
Right.
So real techs know that,
and that's a problem. And that's why it's kind of a harder job sometimes doing somebody like George that has open tunings, because you have to be able to do that, and so it actually adds a little challenge. It adds more fun to what I'm doing, and that's what you want. You want a job that you can enjoy,
right.
Even though it's hard work and it's there's more stress sometimes, and you're having to. The disadvantage sometimes in your head is that you're standing there on the side of the stage watching these guys on stage, and you're like, a lot of people get the jealousy, but I just kind of I don't even look at that as the
right.
I like doing it. I set up all my own basses. I do all the work on them, so I had that advantage of that desire already. So, working on his stuff, coming out there, and I do the whole thing. I do all the back line, and I wouldn't pass it up. Even if I got a tour offer that was pretty good tour, but not really something it's going to last. I wouldn't give this up to go do
a bigger,
that's what happened with Steelheart. I actually left the band. The last show I did with them was shortly after my son was born. We played in Italy, and it was actually
the Frontiers.
We did that. It was a DVD release, which is it's kind of a sad thing. But me and Kenny Kanowski, the guitar player, that was the last show he did, and then he passed away shortly after that. But we did the show, and then I had Martin Anderson, who's been a friend of mine forever. Mm-hmm. I've been having him fill in, and then I finally just realized, because I was out doing this, there wasn't enough shows with Steelheart.
Well, yeah, Millie does like one show every 6 months.
And he kind of does. You get a little spree where you're doing a couple, and then a couple weeks later you're doing a couple. But it's hard, and for anybody to take that job. So that's why and since we had a guy, since I had a guy in there, I wasn't leaving him high and dry, because I wouldn't have done that anyway.
Right.
So I was able to, leave the band, and Martin took over, and
and it worked out.
Yeah, and it's great. Yeah.
So let me just quickly mention RevJones.com, which is important. The CD is Bakwash, but we will finish on this. James Kottak.
Uh-huh.
I love James. James is awesome. He's always been awesome to me. But there's got to be a wild and crazy story with James, because James
Well,
is a party.
Every time you're with James, there's
a
a
party.
wild and crazy story. I mean, I'll tell you that.
And I'll tell you one right after.
Yeah,
after I turn the tape off.
What's funny is that, I mean, the thing that comes to mind with James isn't even a James story. It's actually kind of an Athena James story. You know, we were doing the Kottak. We were doing shows in Hollywood. It was like right around NAMM, and like two weeks in a row we had shows, and that we're downtown or in Hollywood, and so she wasn't feeling good both days, you know, and she tried to play the first song, and she was having a hard time because she was sick, so and he was looking at her and making her mad, you know, so she just threw the sticks at him and said, "You play then." So he gets back and he's trying to play and sing, you know, and it's just punk rock.
Because in Kottak he was singing, he was up front with the guitar.
Yeah, and so he's trying to play this punk rock stuff, and he realizes it's harder to play and sing. So so the first week, Janie Lane was there, and I'd known Janie for a long time, but Janie was completely sober this night. The only time I ever seen him completely sober, which was shocking. It was, I mean, it's a sad thing to say, but you're like, somebody get him a drink,
right?
You know, because it was just, you know, out of character, but you know,
right.
So. And little did people know Janie was a great drummer.
Yes, he was.
So we get him up there.
In fact, I think he was the original drummer in Warrant or some band.
Yeah, they were in a band together, Buster Brown.
Right.
Yeah. So Janie gets up, and he doesn't know any of the songs. He's never even heard them. So I'm having to coach him on how to do them, and you know it's punk rock, so it's it's kind of like the modern kind of punk rock.
Yeah, it's just like 1 2 1 2 1 2 real fast.
And so he finished the show. Which was, you know, it's like, it's just funny. So then the next week we get there. And,
so the drummer is singing, the singer is drumming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then next week we get there. And I'm trying to think of who it was. He was the drummer for, what's his name?
Let's just say Pretty Boy Floyd.
No, he was the drummer for Ike and Tina.
Right.
I think he played with Angel, and he's I just can't think of his name right off. But
right.
So he's there. It's same deal. Athena just right when we were about to start, she just threw the sticks at him. So it was like every time we do shows, it was something weird. So it come up on Japan. We were supposed to go do a Japan tour, and they already gave me they already told me I couldn't quit the band unless I could find another Okie, you know, that was cool, that they liked, to take my position. I couldn't do it. And a buddy of mine had moved out there from Oklahoma to play bass, and he had been hanging out with them. So that's how I got out of doing the Japan tours. I said, "Oh man, I got a gig. You need to use Price." And I mean, it's a good thing because they got over there, and then she left, and James, they had to get the drum tech to play all the shows. I knew that would happen. But yeah, I mean, I love those two. You know, those two.
The joys of rock and roll, right?
Yeah. Hopefully he's still doing good. You know, I heard he was doing better. You know, but he's crazy.
Yes, yeah. and we'll leave it on that. Thank you, Rev, and of course, do check out Bakwash, RevJones.com.
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk.